Welcome to the Outdoors and Holistic Project, the podcast edition, with City Girl in Nature. My name is Kwisia, and today we're joined by Rian and Mame from Mamasia. Thank you
Hello.
for joining me.
Hi.
Can you give me a bit of cultural kind of background of you guys and, just to set the tone a bit?
Yeah, sure. I was born and raised here in the UK, North London, and I moved to South London a couple of years ago. But my heritage is Ghanaian, so both my parents are from Ghana, but born and raised here.
Cool.
Yeah. So my parents are from St. Lucia and Dominica in the Caribbean, but I was born and raised here in the UK as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I guess Mamasia also is a family business, right? So how did that come about and what's that journey been?
So basically, Mamasia is a natural skincare and wellbeing brand. What makes us different is that we get all our raw materials, mainly shea butter, from my ancestral lands in northern Ghana. And that came about because I spent some time in my childhood in Ghana. And whilst I was there, I was always asking questions. Like, I was really inquisitive. I really wanted to know like how things are grown, what they're used for. And as a child, that's what you do, right? You are always like asking questions. So some people got annoyed because I was constantly bugging them. But a lot of the elders would show me. So I learned more or less everything about a lot of the raw things that just grow wild on our land. And this is mainly throughout Ghana as well. A lot of the things you see us use, apart from the shea butter, which only grows in the north of Ghana, but things like baobab, which we also sell, you'll see it dotted around in Ghana. So you'll be able to spot a baobab tree more or less anywhere outside of Accra. So some of the benefits of shea butter are vitamin A, F, and K. We actually eat the shea fruits. It grows. It takes up to about 50 years for it to grow.
Wow.
Yeah.
50 years.
50 years.
And there's so much shea butter about.
Yeah, because once it grows fully in bloom, it's abundant. It just
Yeah.
keeps on producing. But until it gets to that
Maturity.
ripe stage,
Okay.
yeah, until the fruit
Wow.
ripens.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then we eat the fruits. We then basically, nothing gets wasted as well. So we eat the fruits. The seeds get crushed and dried. And they look like this, basically. I don't know if you could see. These are the shea nuts. They get dried. And let me just open it. Oh, someone's had a grip on this one. There you go. And you can just feel them and smell them. And see if it reminds you of anything at all. This one might.
There's like there's different stages here. I can
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. So like one is
So this is
the seed that's inside the fruit, and inside the seed is the nut. So you
Okay.
crack open the seed inside the fruit and you get the nut.
Wow. It's way different in texture as well.
Yeah. And if you have a smell of the
smell
container.
of the jar and then see what you think. What does that remind you
Chocolate.
of? There you
Yeah.
go. That's basically where chocolate comes from. So part of it goes into the cosmetic making industries and part of it goes to the chocolate manufacturing companies. And back home, we actually use shea butter in our cooking. It does have an acquired taste, but you can use it to cook with as well.
Wow. So it's kind of like family with the cocoa bean-ish.
See, yeah, like cousins, sort of. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah. And Mama Sia basically means mother, like Mother Nature, of course, because everything's coming from the land. And then Sia is the acronym which Rianne actually came up with, which is to share, inspire, and assist, because we want to share our knowledge. We want to inspire people to go more natural and assist them on their journey as well. To
Wow.
more a holistic.
I got a bit of
approach.
Sia in my name.
And you're sharing and inspiring and assisting people every day.
I like that, yeah. So you mentioned about the elders as well. How important is it to incorporate, the elders and their knowledge and wisdom within the products, especially here in the Western world, where I guess a lot of that is lost when we come over here?
It's fundamental. You'd be surprised how important the elders are. I think when Rianne came to Ghana for the first time, we went to our farmland, and she saw, like, they are put on a pedestal because they have all this knowledge, and they're the ones that really dictate how the shea butter is going to be made, what time we have to go to the forest and forage. They dictate everything. The women are mostly the ones that manufacture shea butter in general. It's like
Yeah.
a woman's industry, I would say.
Yeah.
And if you look at our logo, here you've got the mother, or the elder mother, who passes on that knowledge to her child, who also that's representative of the baby being on the back with the cloth, because a lot of mothers go to the forest with their babies on their back. So we represent the women all throughout our branding, our story, and the cloth is the pattern is the cloth that they use to tie their babies on their backs. So
Oh, very creative.
Yeah. So we've tried to incorporate as much as we can in the logo. Also, the round bit and the two little dots on the top represent the shea tree as well.
yeah.
And unity, because we're all about the community and the unity and helping and supporting the community back home in Ghana.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, I love that. It's like really incorporated, and sometimes even with a lot of brands out there, it's not really fully thought about, but it sounds like all the fundamentals behind the brand and everything is really like included, and in like you understand it
Yeah.
through just looking at like the prints or the logo, for instance.
Yeah, this is basically an illustration of their needs. When we started the business, there was a clear need. So I was going back and forth, obviously, since childhood. And what I noticed was, I was like, oh my God, this shea butter is such a rich commodity, but it doesn't get the awareness that it needs. And I also saw that there was a need in our community back home. And instead of giving people things that maybe they could use once or twice, I thought, why don't we buy from our extended community, our family, sell it out here in the West, and then give them some of the profits. At the end of the year, we give them 5% of our annual income to make them more sustainable. So when customers buy, they're not just buying because of the benefits that the products give them, they're also buying and paying into a community in Africa as well.
Wow, that's really important, as you
Yeah,
say,
it is.
sustainability, and also
Yeah,
to give
yeah,
back, because
give
it's
back.
very rare, natural resources and stuff that are coming out of most of these countries that are actually in Africa, that there's ever anything given back.
Yeah.
You mentioned about growing up in Ghana as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like kind of share about maybe some of the differences with child raising and anything you noticed as well that is different to here?
Yeah, completely different. There is a hierarchy in our culture. Elders, like I said, they are respected because of their knowledge and their wisdom. And a child is more or less free. You're free to roam around, but you have this sense that this person's older than me and I must learn from them. So that's very much part of a child's psyche. I think I had to adapt to that because obviously living and growing up here. So the first time I went to Ghana, I was 12. And living and growing here, I just used to answer to my mum and a few aunts and uncles. But there, you're answering to a whole community. And you're not just your parents' child, you're everyone's child. So anyone can kind of put you in your place within reason, of course. And yeah, you're just, I feel like here you kind of feel like you can't express yourself and be authentic, whereas in Africa it's encouraged to be authentic and just always express your inner child. Even elders don't take themselves too seriously. You see an interaction of play between all generations. Back home, age isn't really an issue. It's more about exposing the gifts of the person, whether it be like, oh, they're really good at drawing, or they're really good as a carpenter. Whatever the gift is, it's celebrated and acknowledged.
How can we kind of bring that back, I guess, and have it here also, I guess, these values and stuff? How do you think we can kind of try to?
That's a good question.
I would say that we need to think more about our communities and working together as a community. I think in this country, everyone works individually, or families work individually. And like Mami said, in Africa, the village raises everyone, raises all the children. And we don't have that kind of that kind of togetherness here. So I think if we could, like, obviously people can work together within their family units, but friends become family here. And if we can help each other to raise each other's children and be a part of a bigger community, I think we can excel more in life collectively.
Yeah, I would also say I'm not saying money isn't important, but if you even look at certain parts in Africa, even where our products are from, there isn't a huge emphasis on money, or there isn't an abundance of money. However, everybody always finds a reason to be joyful, regardless of what adversity they're going through. They will come together and make sure that, you know, their well-being is always fundamentally strong by supporting one another as well. And I think that's what we lack in this country. As we all know, like, mental health and well-being is a big issue. And I know that obviously we live on an island that changes from season to season. So yes, things like vitamin D is an issue and things like that. However, people just come together. It really is, you really do see teamwork.
Yeah.
On the land. If someone's doing something and they're struggling, no one's gonna call for someone else to come and help them. You'll just see someone, a child, a man, a woman, and they will come and help you lift that load. And I think that's what we lack in this country.
I agree with that. Community is definitely really important and something we're losing
Yeah.
more and more. But also there is people that are trying to build that back again. So in terms of like growing up generally, like the UK, and if you visited maybe the Caribbean and stuff, what would you say is some of like the cultural differences as well? And did you learn anything holistically from going back to the Caribbean and seeing the comparison to here in UK?
Yeah, I feel like every time I went to the Caribbean, I felt like in a happier state of mind. I feel like in the Caribbean and in Africa, because I've also visited the lands where we make the shea butter, it's very much like Mummy said, there's a sense of joy and there's a sense of happiness and there's a sense of love. I think here we're very stressed in the UK, so I feel like in life we're always chasing something here. We're always running after something. We're always thinking about money and thinking about how we can excel ourselves. Whereas in the Caribbean and Africa, it's quite a lot slower pace of life, and you get to take in life more. You get to really indulge in life's richness. Whereas here, we think of richness as money, but money isn't what richness is. The richness of life is about love and joy and, you know, being at peace. And I really find that when I go to the Caribbean, I feel peaceful. I feel connected to the land. Living in the city, you can't get that kind of connection unless, you know, you're going to the park every day and you don't have time to do it. And plus, you know, the weather here isn't, look at today, it's raining, so you can't guarantee that you're going to have always good weather. But in the Caribbean, even if it's raining, it's warm. You know, you like the embrace of the water on your skin. I like to swim in the sea. I love swimming in the sea. In fact, that's one of like my favourite things to do. I think that's my happy place. Obviously, I can't get to do that here. So I feel very connected to the earth and nature when I go back to the Caribbean and Africa, particularly, which I can't get to feel so much here.
Maybe you can. If
We
you
can.
You've got to make it
But in
happen.
a different way, yeah.
But I can go to the country
Yeah.
more and visit. I know in England there's a lot probably that I haven't seen because I'm so confined to the city, but yeah.
In the city too, there's loads of small pockets that,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes we dismiss as well. Even like pathways that you can find edibles and stuff. But yeah, that's a different
like
conversation.
forests,
Yeah,
things like that, go foraging and things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I think it's more abundant in those countries.
yeah, definitely.
It's
You know,
like here we have to look
to our
for it
culture,
here.
especially.
Yeah, and I
exactly.
think over there as well, you live in the moment more. Whereas here, we're planning every
Yeah,
moment.
we
So
are.
it's not as organic. Whereas when you're back there, you already tell yourself as soon as you step off the plane, I'm on holiday, I can relax. But we don't say that to ourselves whilst we're living day to day. So we need to start doing that as well. I can relax. I'm allowed to relax. And those things are fundamental as well. And once we start thinking like that, then we're going to be open to noticing these spaces that we don't notice.
True. And I think it's important that what you're saying, that we can find it here, because I think we get blocked in thinking that we can't. And it's important to try and find that sense of freedom here and that sense of connectivity to nature here. So yeah, I'll welcome any suggestions to do that.
It sounds good to hear you change the page so quickly as well. You mentioned about the farmers as well and the women being like quite a dominant role, especially with the shea butter. Could you maybe like go a bit more into that in terms of even some of the other stuff? I think moringa trees and stuff like that. Is there something specific around why the women are doing, the farming as much? Because it's not really commonly heard.
Well, it's actually an African secret that the women run the continent. They really do. They are when you go to the market where there's a lot of hustle and bustle, it's the women trading. I'm not saying that men are just there for heavy labor. They do play their part, but the women pretty much do a lot of things. It's just obviously this tradition started way before I was born, but it's just like the natural being of things. They're just very much in tune with the land. And I mean, if you look at it like this, being a mother, if a child's sick, you will have an intuitive approach, like, oh, I can use this, like maybe I can use elderberry because she's got a cough or he's got a cough. So there'll be some intuitive downloads that you'll get that you'll just go ahead and do. It's the same thing with the women back home, because they're so engrossed in the land. They kind of just know, oh, this is what I need to go and get. Like moringa, for example, was discovered by Swedish doctors because they were in Senegal and they saw children with really big tummies, which is known as kwashiorkor. It's a sign of malnutrition. And then a couple of days later, they noticed that the swelling went down in these children. They were running around and they were like, we noticed that the mothers were picking this shrub. So they took some of the plant, went back to Sweden and were like, oh my God, it's got all these properties. And that's where moringa started to become popular in the international market, because the Swedish, started promoting it. And that's really how that came into play. But we've been using moringa for centuries to treat malnutrition in children, or just to provide extra vitamins when there hasn't been enough. Because moringa grows wild and it's pretty easy to grow as well. So,
and just to add on to her point, I'd say that farming is a form of nurturing, because you're nurturing the land. You have to sow the seeds, you have to water it, you have to give it life to help it to grow. So naturally, women have that nurturing instinct. So it makes sense that the women are the ones that do the farming in Africa.
It makes sense, yeah, when you put it like that. But because of how we're kind of conditioned to think, like men just do anything that is like laboury.
Very
women are more, maybe the selling of market makes more sense,
right,
generally to people, but like actually doing the farming. But when you put it like that, it makes so much more sense to why. And especially I liked how you put it in terms of like intuitive kind of downloads. I liked how you phrased it as well, that's what women naturally do get, even with a child.
Definitely. The men do farm. Obviously they farm. I'm not saying that they don't. They do farm. But with shea butter in particular, that is for the women. It's a relationship between woman and shea that's always been there. The men do not get involved unless, we're stockpiling and they've got to carry heavy sacks to put them on the truck, things like that. But in regards to looking at the plant and noticing when it's ready or calling us to go and forage, a woman elder is going to do that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about the process of the shea butter as well, in terms of how is it kind of made into then shea cream, or also
I don't mind.
And what's the best way to kind of store it, and
Okay, so based on my experience, because Mami actually took me to the northern region of Ghana, Larimbango, which is where our shea trees are. So going through the process was like a really enlightening experience. So we went with the women to the forest to pick up the nuts. So the fruits drop off the trees, and then the fruits get eaten or they wither away. So when we arrived, the fruits were withering away. So we collected all the nuts. We had big containers that the women were carrying on their heads with all the nuts back to
We
the
carried
base,
them on our
and
heads,
we carried them
on
too,
our
but
heads
obviously
as well.
I didn't realise the sheer extent of how heavy that was,
Yeah, they're
and
heavy.
the load that they're carrying. So they're very strong women. So they took it back to the land, and then the shea nuts were put out to dry. So they dry in the sun for about a week. So there was some already there, because obviously we wasn't there for a week to see the whole process from that. So the seeds were dried, and then the shells were cracked. So as you could see, remember I said to you that the shell is removed of the seed, and then you've got the nut inside. And then they are put into a pot, and they're dried, and then they're put into like a big pestle and mortar, and they're crushed. And then in the crushing process, it turns into like a paste.
By hand.
Yeah, by hand.
This is
So
all
they're
by
doing
hand.
it
Oh, wow.
with
Everything.
Yeah, everything. So they're doing it with a big crushing mortar in a pestle, and it turns to a paste, and the paste smells like chocolate. So at this point you can really smell this chocolatey smell, and you're like, wow, so rich, and it's so thick and rich. And then it gets cooked again, then it gets rubbed. It goes through a process where it's scraped on a rock,
stone?
on a stone, yeah,
Hand crush it.
hand crushed. Then it gets put back into the pot, water gets added, and then it boils, and then when the fat separates from the water, you get the white shea butter,
You scoop it out.
and you scoop it out, yeah.
And that's your shea.
Wow.
It's a long
And then it's
process.
stored
No,
into like big containers. in
I'm
the
saying,
liquid
wow,
form.
not because of the process. It doesn't sound like really, really long, but it's it's like the effort of how hands-on it is. That
yeah.
energy that's being put into it.
Yeah,
That's
and
why
that
I'm like,
love.
wow, yeah, because nowadays with machinery and stuff like that, that's typically, especially in the Western world, it's how things are done. But just hearing that process of, people's love and nurture and all of that process just sounds like no wonder. Even you said some of the benefits earlier, but no wonder that it's so beneficial as well. It's probably that energy that's going into it also.
Yeah.
You can see the whole process on our Instagram. Like, I think it's got the shea butter making process, so you can see it as Rianne said it, and I was in the forest doing it as well.
So how do you store it as well? Just like
So when it's in, the fat is separated, it's still in a liquid form, so it gets poured into big containers for storage, and then it solidifies.
okay, and that's the best way to kind of just store it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
out of sunlight.
And then you make it airtight.
Yeah, in a cool, dry place, out of sunlight. Shea butter has about 2 years, a 2-year shelf life naturally, if you don't add any essential oils. If you add essential oils, you'll notice that the colour will change a bit, and that the aroma will start to evaporate as well. But it generally has a 2-year shelf life.
You mentioned also about the baobab tree.
Yeah, baobab tree.
The baobab tree. Just some of the like kind of tells about it tasting like sherbet as well. You said it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about the benefits specifically around that tree also?
The baobab tree is also known as they call it one of the tree of life. It's the same with the moringa tree. It has a very big trunk, and it's the only tree on the planet that has the capabilities to spray its food. So it sprays its fruit sparingly. It doesn't go through photosynthesis like a lot of plants. So it stores a lot of water, and it gives water to its fruit bit by bit. And that's why it looks sherbety or powdery when you crack it open. You can taste the vitamin C straight off the bat, like it's very zesty and zingy. It's like we've got some actually here, but it's a creamy powder, and it's really used if you've got a cold because of the vitamin C content. It's a natural source of magnesium, fiber, and potassium, and it's also a prebiotic, so it gives you the healthy gut enzymes as well. Traditionally in Africa, when someone's sick, before they will call the local healer or doctor, for example, they will typically give a person baobab as a tonic, because we all know that illnesses start in the gut. So they will kind of flush anything out that's there before the doctor comes. So they would have given that to them. And it was also used as the old baobab trees used to be hacked open, and women used to give birth in the trees as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that must be something quite powerful as well.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just thinking about how that would be, you know?
The gravity, so you're lying and it's easy for you to kind of have your baby as opposed to lying on a bed and pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's magical. Yeah, I want to know more about that. Okay, yeah. So most of your products are mainly handmade as well.
Yeah.
Why did you take this approach, I guess? Like, why did you kind of think that this would be the best way, you know, for the products to be
We
made?
really wanted to keep the integrity of the product or the ingredients. So we wanted to bring those traditional methods to the West and keep it all integrated as well. I mean, yes, as businesses expand, you know, we have to adapt and adopt within reason, so that our values aren't being compromised. But it's really just to make sure that the integrity of our core values, that I mentioned, are intact. Is there any?
I mean, and also we're promoting natural beauty and well-being products. So we want to keep the process as natural as possible, because in processing, things get tarnished or things get, you know, they change the aesthetic makeup of the product through processing. So keeping it as natural as possible keeps the integrity of the product, like Mummy said.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Get all the benefits. And like what you said, you know, the women, you feel that energy. You feel like it feels like home. That's what we want it to feel like. I always wanted to, when I left Ghana, I was like, because I spent 3 years in my childhood there going to school. And so just before I was 16, I came back. And a part of me always had this longing to have home with me. So when I put the shea butter on, I have home with me as well.
Yeah, that's a nice way to think of it too. Because, you know, sometimes, especially like for me anyway, because I'm mixed heritage as well, it can often feel like, where is home? And I guess home isn't necessarily like a location. To hear you say like this product brings that sense of home is just beautiful, you know. So you're very careful about how you like recycle or get rid of waste as well. Can you tell me a bit about that process as well? And why is that a part of your practice?
In Africa, we've always practiced sustainability. I mean, that's just a new term to the West, but in Africa, we've always done it. So when we make a stew with tomatoes, you know, normally you would have a recycling bin where you'll put all your waste, like the seeds or the skin. No, that goes right back into the forest, and then it grows into a tomato tree. So nothing gets discarded. With the shea butter, for example, the husk, when the shells are being broken down, it's then added with another spice and essence. It's made into kind of like a pulp, and it's used for insulation in the mud huts. So that's what they would use to keep the mud huts cool in the very, very hot seasons. And then they would use it would also do the opposite. It would keep it warm in the cold seasons. So they figured all this out, you know, not to throw away anything, and to just be natural scientists and figure out, what's this going to do, and experiment, what's that going to do. So it's equally important for us to kind of do the same thing. So even though the shea butter gets transported to us, when we have it here, we practice the same thing. Nothing gets discarded. We make sure that we, you know, are very methodical when we're planning out our products. Nothing gets wasted because everything's done by hand as well. So there has to be a level of care. And because we're taking it from its natural environment in Africa, we have to give back in the same way. It's just a principle that is natural to us because we've grown up around our products. I've grown up around these ingredients, so it's just natural for me not to be wasteful. So when this term sustainability started popping up, I kind of had a little grin to myself, because we've been doing that and I'm sure they do that in the Caribbean as well. Nothing gets wasted. So yeah.
So in terms of nowadays as well, people that are now having children and stuff, skincare is now becoming something that they're starting to care more about. And with your products as well, is there any products that you can use on children And how do you also like go about picking the right ones?
You can use all of
them,
them
yeah.
for children. There's nothing here that you see that a child can't use. And that's why you see the mother and the child, because it's for the family. Shea butter is a family ingredient. So the women will go and collect it, they'll use it to cook with, and then they'll moisturize them and their baby. We do black soap as well, which is here, which has become quite popular, I think, on TikTok in particular. And this is original African black soap. There are a lot of black soaps on the market, but this is authentically African. You can tell by the kind of two-tone complexion, right? And this is really good for like babies when they have cradle cap, or when they have like a lot of afterbirth or eczema or psoriasis or rashes on the from nappy rash. This will actually clear it up, and then you would just so what this will do is cleanse, tone, and mildly exfoliate the skin. And then you could follow up with something like moringa oil, which you can drink as well, and that's got all these great over 80 nutritional benefits. So again, that's healing the skin as well and the hair. The same with the shea butter as well. So we don't use a lot of Western cosmetics. There's so many things that are going in these products. These are very simplistic, and like I said, we've tried to keep the integrity of what our ancestors used. So it's the same thing that you see here, the same things that our ancestors use, and that my extended family is still using today.
Rian, yeah. So in terms of hair, is there anything that, any of these products and the changes of season within the UK, is there anything specifically that we can do to help also with our hair as well? Because hair is also becoming a thing that we're more becoming connected to.
Definitely. So I have very fine hair, and so I'm always trying to find ways to thicken my hair. And funnily enough, the aunties had to formulate a product for us, which is called hair food. Let's see if I can find it.
It's this one, maybe.
Second, that one.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is hair food. So this is made with the shea butter, but then it has 10 oils in it that are very, very good for hair growth, strengthening hair follicles, helping to give the hair luster and shine. So it has things like jojoba oil, castor oil, cedarwood oil, thyme oil, rosemary oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, grapeseed oil. And it was formulated because Mommy's hairline fell out. So she went to the aunties and she said to them, what can I use? I'm I'm the face of Mamasia, so I need to be having products that actually can showcase what we're doing. So they formulated this and to help her hairline grow back. And as you can see, she's got a very full and rich hairline. But it also helped me, as I said before, I've got fine hair and my hair was starting to thin. And this has helped to thicken my hair. It's helped to strengthen my hair follicles, give my hair lots of luster and shine. But we also, in our superfood oils, they can also go into the hair. So the moringa is very good for strengthening the hair. The hibiscus helps to stop premature grey and helps to strengthen the follicles. The baobab oil is very good for very dry hair. So, I mean, all of the products can go in the hair, even the scented body butters. So lavender is very good for hair as well. It has properties that helps it stop from drying out and helps it stop from breaking. So, yeah, I mean, all of our products can go into the hair. They can go on the skin, they can go on the body. And just going back to what Mami was saying, they're all naturally derived from the plant. There's nothing else in these products that are other than what is naturally derived from the plant. So even with our scented butters, their scent is coming from essential oils, which again are natural plant derivatives. So yeah.
Mommy, you're a certified breath coach here. You're a certified wellness and breath coach. I guess living in the city, particularly with the air pollution and the busyness and the stresses of life, how do you find that balance and peace? Being able to have like that, those kind of skills as well.
I have to attribute it to living in Ghana. There's something that you can't quite put your finger on. It's an internal thing that you get given when you're there. You get to, even when you're going through adversity, learn to navigate through that, and that's by maintaining your internal peace. So I've had to cultivate that over time, especially running a business with, the extended family. It can be challenging. And so I had to go on my own journey of finding my inner peace whilst navigating a business. And that led me on to, I've always had an interest about the natural world and wellness, obviously living in Ghana and then coming back here. And it just led me on to these different journeys of becoming a wellness coach or becoming a breath coach. Yeah.
And Rian, would you be able to advise some of the listeners about some of the ways to de-stress that you also personally might do?
Yeah, so I do a lot of meditation. I like to get up early in the morning and meditate and really be still, because I find that when you have that moment of stillness before you start your day runs a lot smoother. I find that when I don't meditate, things just don't go how I want them to go. So I feel like that sense of peace and stillness is really important to start the day off. And I also like to do yoga. Me and Mami, we do yoga together quite a lot. Yeah, we find that, again, very relaxing, very therapeutic. Also very much focuses on the breath and your inner peace, and also helps you to exercise as well, because you stretch your body, you stretch your muscles, you stretch parts of your body that you don't even know you were able to put into certain positions. So yeah, always find that quite good and energizing as well. So it gives you a lot of energy. We also do something called the 5 Tibets as well, which is what the ancient monks use to keep their body and their life force intact. So it really balances out your chakras. We do that every day in the morning. And that's really important for both myself and Mami, because running a business can be very stressful, and having a busy life, you need to take that time to find that peace. And also it's about what you eat as well. So we really do focus on what we put in our body, and especially as well with the skincare. So we promote that beauty comes from the inside out. You should be able to eat what you put. You should be able to put what you put on your body. You should be able to eat as well. And it's very important that, these properties in these products go into the skin. They penetrate through the skin. So it's important what you put onto your skin and what you put onto your body. And therefore it's important what you eat as well, because that penetrates outside onto your skin. So yeah, I mean, all of these things are very important in terms of finding that balance and inner peace in busy schedules and running around in your daily life.
Thank you so much both for coming down today. One last thing is, how can people find out more about yourselves and Mamasia and the products?
We're online. We're an online store, which is www.mama-sia.com. You can also find us on socials, which is at Mamasia Beauty as well.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so fortunate to be able to be facilitating this podcast here. If you are able to donate to Paper Garden, that would be truly appreciated to help them give back more to the community.